India, thanks to our Prime Minister Modi, is most respected country in the world. And I am saying this very responsibly and with my personal experience, and I can tell you that.
What kind of an impact do you think COVID is having on the economy?
Inevitable that it will have an adverse impact on economy because economic activity has been stopped deliberately to deal with COVID. As you know, no one knows the real solution to COVID as yet. In the absence of a known medication or in the absence of a vaccine which will prevent the future pandemic happening. So as a result of that, the only best solution that was found was to keep people away and not, they should not congregate, they should not travel together. As a result of that, in India as well as globally, more or less entire economic activity has been stopped. For example, one great example that one can give is of aviation. Aviation industry is very badly affected, and there is, people say they could lose something like $350 billion of revenue. And just imagine the cascading effect of that. When airlines don't fly, obviously all the support system doesn't take shape. So all the catering contractors, all the transport contractors, all of that will not happen. Fuel demand goes down. And in fact, this is one of the reasons why the oil prices have come down. And all of that lead to huge job losses. Now, yesterday, the Europeans are saying that they'll cut maybe 1,000, 1,000, 100,000 jobs. The US is actually not supposed to cut jobs because they have got a package from the government which prohibits them from firing people till 30th of September. But what happens subsequently, we don't know. So economic activity, in particular in some sectors which are very badly affected, is manufacturing. Sectors like aviation, that is travel, tourism, related activities, hospitality, in a very bad shape. So I think economy is going to take a big hit.
So the industry is seeking a relief package for a very long time now, for almost 40 days now. So what do you think the government can do to ease the pain of the industry?
Firstly, of course, Prime Minister has set up a task force under the Finance Minister. So that task force will be definitely new recommendation. But to look at it, how the package should be, is that when you lose economic activity, that has an adverse impact on GDP. So if the GDP goes down, it will have an impact on future revenues of the government. So looking at it with a limited angle of the government. When you lose future revenues, that means to that extent, the government will not be able to put on social sectors, in infrastructure and other areas. So by giving package, you are actually, in a way, neutralizing the ill effect of contraction of the GDP. So to some extent, that contraction can be taken care of. Number two, the impact of the package would be, the positive impact of package would be that it can start economic activity, the manufacturing activity which has suffered, they will get help. Small and medium enterprises will get help. And then automatically that means to that extent, self-employment, jobs will be directly protected. So that's a social positive impact of that. Also, if you really look at it, the GDP, if it goes down, to bring it back becomes very difficult. So therefore, we should try to neutralize it as much as possible by ensuring that we put package so that that package will take care of it.
So you just said that economy has taken a beating, will be kind of under stress for a long time. But in your personal opinion, when do you see the growth coming back? Nobody knows what the situation is, but what do you think?
This is all a global phenomena. If you really look at it, like US, we has already contracted 4.8% in the first quarter, which is supposed to be a robust quarter. So March, and that was not a quarter which was worst affected quarter. So probably the second quarter, the calendar year quarter, April to June, may be worse than what ever any time it has happened. European Union economy, EU economy, has again suffered the worst in any time in the past. Eurozone has again suffered the most. Even Chinese economy, the second largest economy, has suffered. Japan has gone into recession. So globally, this is already happening. So I think one way to push growth is actually two ways. One is by investments. So that's why the package will help in investment, because to that extent investment will start. Other is consumption. And for consumption, we'll have to increase the incomes of the people in a significant way. If you talk about the incomes, the first package that Prime Minister announced, 1,70,000 crore, will actually take care of it partially, because to that extent the incomes will be protected. If you have the income, then people will be able to buy. But most of the income now will go into food items, because people are really, particularly the daily age earners, etc. They will be waiting to spend that money on the food. In any case, for the poor families, more than 80% of the family budget is normally spent on food. So therefore, this will inevitably happen. So there is not really consumption except food. But as we increase the incomes of the people over a period of time, that would mean that consumption will come again. Consumption will lead to demand. Demand will lead to more production, and this virtuous cycle will start again.
So in terms of the policy intervention, what do you think that the government could do immediately to take care of the industry?
Saying, look at the global perspective. See,
Sure.
like and you, interestingly, the strategic part of it. See, there is going to be a very big shift that is going to happen in the global matter. So India would be a big beneficiary of that. For example, China has invested 1.17 trillion into the treasury bills of United States. Now, if China, that particular stake in China, yesterday the President of United States has said that they are going to ask for reparation damages. And in case they want to do it, there's a speculation that they could look into some other holding of Chinese into the United States. So this could result into so many different areas. It might lead to, one was a trade war, which has started earlier between US and China, particularly about the tariffs and others. Then became pandemic, which has affected the economic activity. If something like this happens, third wave, then it could be very, very destabilizing for the global economy. And whether you like it or not, India has a big stake in global economy, because we of course, exports are directly related to that. FDI, which is directly related to the global economy doing well. Thirdly, the capital flows that we get into India, whether we get it in the form of portfolio investments or we get it from remittances. India is the single largest recipient of remittances, more than $80 trillion. Now, as a result of course, there are going to be some pluses, some minuses. The reducing in oil price is going to help us to save some of the dollar outflows. But remittances, if it get reduced because of activities that oil producing countries may reduce their expenditure, so that might affect the remittances. But I feel personally, all these global factors will also help Indian economy, could also affect Indian economy in some way. So that's why we have to balance it properly. We must have proper trade-off to understand into this. But manufacturing, are you asking me? So because of all this global trade, the manufacturing in India would get a boost, because we have a great potential to produce more. China became the workshop of the world, and we became service providers of the world. If you can combine services and manufacturing, because in any case we are seeing that certification, the certification of commodities also happening. So if you can combine both and ensure that we can make India a destination, natural destination, not just for manufacturing alone, but for services together. And at a time when world will be looking at very secure supply chains for food, particularly those countries who don't have enough food, like in the West Asia. If you can actually work on that, and the Middle East, we can provide them food on an ongoing basis. Just imagine the boost that India can get in all three segments of India's economy, whether it is industry, whether it is services, whether it is agriculture. As it is, we have put in place an agriculture export policy, which can take India's export to about $100 billion. So I think this could be another very interesting way of looking at it.
So how do you reimagine India's position in the post-COVID world?
See, India would have a great advantage. See, firstly, the advantage is on many fronts. Firstly, the geopolitically, India is well placed, because India has very good relationship, thanks to the Prime Minister leadership, with more or less all parts of the world, whether it is South America, whether it is North America, Central America, Europe, obviously, Africa. We have been having so much of interaction all the time with Middle East, with South Asia, of course, except one probably, then Southeast Asia, East Asia. So if you take, and Central Asia, of course. So if you take all the regions of the world, we have some excellent relationship. Now we have to leverage on that. So geopolitically, thanks to the investment that we made of our relationship in the past, we can pay off now. Secondly, economically, it makes sense because India's labor is still very, very cheap as compared to our competitors. We have to reduce all the hurdles that come in the way. We have to reduce them, and then we can be really better place. Thirdly, this is financially. So I thought geopolitically, economically, financially. If you look at it, the world is going to have so much of surplus money because of these packages. US has given $3 trillion of package. So $3 trillion of package, $3 trillion is equivalent to India's GDP. India is 2.9 trillion, so this is 3 trillion US has put into the system. European Union has put in so many things system, other countries. So that type of liquidity, with central banks of all the countries reducing interest rates, the flow of money as well as cheap source, where will that money go? Money will obviously chase projects. So we could be better off in a situation wherein our infrastructure projects, we have to structure them properly, can get a big boost from this. So I'm talking about package money. In addition to that, pension fund money, sovereign wealth fund money will also be chasing projects because they will have to probably get out of the investment they made earlier into the market, which have become riskier after this COVID. So India is in a very, very good position from all possible perspectives.
So you've also been a commerce minister. So if one were to go back to your previous role, which industries do you think would be the would lead the resurgence of the Indian economy?
Firstly, if you look at it, we can be healthcare industry itself, because there is going to be a renewed focus globally on investing into public health. Then related to healthcare would be the healthcare providers. So industry, now we cannot, so I'm taking a little broader perspective of that. So industry would mean not just manufacture products, but also the providers of the services. So just imagine if you can work out properly today, we are seeing that so many countries requesting India, please send us healthcare professionals to us. So just imagine if we train nurses, we train doctors, we create more doctors, more nurses, we create more healthcare professionals in paramedics, we all do all the support system medicine. So just imagine that's another area. Then medical equipments, all the we're going to be a very big demand for that. And therefore, that again will be that is one segment of industry. The other industry that would be, of course, will be the food processing industry, because when we are seeing these supply chain issues, that can be another very big industry that will definitely go in education, healthcare, etc. Also, actually speaking, our manufacturing can again be getting a boost, not necessarily end-to-end products, but as part of a value chain. We have to identify those value chains because supply chains are going to be disrupted. If there is no disruption, there is no chance for us to enter. But because the disruption is going to take place on a massive scale, we should become, and we should not even aim to think about it, I want to be part of the entire value chain. It doesn't really matter. Even if we are become part of some important segment of that value chain, this will again benefit. So I think we should try to work on that.
So, in terms of Make in India, where do you think that the government policies could be slightly better so that we get more investment into India, especially into a sector like technology?
One way to look at it is I will divide it into two parts. One is Make in India. We'll have to decide what to make in India, because Make in India would mean what to make in India. So I had prepared, because you're reminding me my days as Commerce and Industry Minister, I had prepared a complete blueprint about $5 trillion economy, which is Prime Minister's mission. How much of that will come from industry? So we said $1 trillion, that is taking from today our share of industry into GDP 16%. So if you make 20%, that's $1 trillion, can come from industry. 60%, 30%, $3 trillion will come from services, and $1 trillion will come from agriculture. Now, in this industry, so I'm talking about Make in India now, we've identified, working with CII and all the industry leaders like Mahindras or Tatas or Birlas, we worked out which is that manufacturing that can happen. What is the segment of that manufacturing? Which product, which industry? Because industry is industry, but which segment of the industry can manufacture? So that is all ready. So that can really make it 20%, $1 trillion. But that is one part of that. What to make in India? But then Make in India, the other part. How to make in India? One is what to make in India, that we know. Now, how to make in India is also equally important. And that comes to processes, that comes to systems, that comes to approvals, that comes to giving people a feeling that they are very well taken care of, giving them a sense of security that some of the agencies, etc., will be working for you and not against you. I think all of that put together can definitely create that necessary atmosphere. So Make in India, which Prime Minister launched, is absolutely a doable program and which will happen. one part of that, as I said, what to make in India, and second part of that is how to make in India.
Right. So infrastructure spending can also boost the economy in a big way.
Yeah.
During your time as railway minister, railway saw the maximum amount of investment, right? The capex increasing almost 3x. So, what role do you think infra spending would play in the entire scheme of things?
No, infrastructure would definitely be one of the big trigger for bringing growth back into the economy. As you know, even historically, if you really look at it, the Great Depression in US resulted into US becoming a superpower eventually because they've spent so much of money into infrastructure, which really paid off over a period of time. So I think infrastructure spending will be very important. The other advantage of infrastructure is that infrastructure per se causes so much of pull demand from other sectors. Like when in railways, and reminding me of that, when we started investing into tracks, we started investing into new lines. Automatically, the demand came from cement, from steel also. The demand came from when we started electrification. The demand came from for electrical industry also. So then we started buying more locomotives. The demand came from so many other sectors. So one is infrastructure spending will lead to that demand. Secondly, it's employment generation because infrastructure can create huge number of jobs. That again will lead to spending by those who earn those wages. So therefore, that again will be having effect. Thirdly, the infrastructure will be a launching pad for further growth because if you look at it, we want a growth rate of 8%, 9% over a period of time. That means we should be ready for that 8, 9% by making infrastructure ready today. So that would mean that when industry would need to use that infrastructure over a period of time, that infrastructure will be already ready for them. So if you have infrastructure before the launch of industry related growth, it will really lead to the spin-off benefit in a huge way.
So recently the government took a step of banning the FDI from China. And after that, there's been a lot of discussion around it. Do you think it's a step in the right direction?
See, government has said very correctly that FDI rules, any country in the world, we always look at it like that. So I think government looks at FDI from a different perspective, from the security of India, from strategic reasons. But I don't think there is any country which has been mentioned by the government as such. So government has only said that with countries which we share border with so many other countries in the world. So I don't think it is related to a particular country per se, but it definitely means that all countries in the world keep reviewing their FDI rules from time to time. Like there was a US also was saying some time back when there was going to be a very strategic port, which probably a private owner wanted to transfer it to some other country. They said no, for strategic reasons, will not allow you to do it happen. US has a very strict rules. So country like United States, I'm saying, which is supposed to be democratic, which is more market oriented. US said that, and US has a law passed by the Congress that any high technology product, it is to be exported to countries. Some products need even the approval of the government. What does it mean? Because they realize the security related issues in place. Some of the European countries are looking at 5G from a different lens. So I think all these are the kind of regulations, stipulations are always put in place to promote India's interests.
So now from your point of view as India's Sherpa to G20 country, how do you see India's positioning in the global scheme of things?
I will tell you very frankly, India, thanks to our Prime Minister Modi, is most respected country in the world. And I'm saying this very responsibly and with my personal experience, and I can tell you that. We made this first proposal under Prime Minister's guidance when we had a recent physical meeting in Saudi Arabia, where our Prime Minister deputed me to go, that we should fight pandemic. That time it had not become that serious. I'm talking about the March. So it had not become that serious. It became serious only last month. So that time we said that we must develop a new vaccine under the global leadership. We must have early warning system. The WHO must have some centers all over the world. They already have some, but they must have more so that we can have a sort of a understanding about a pandemic even before it becomes a pandemic. There should be early warning system. So all of that under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Secondly, if you look at it, the global fight against economic offenders is what Prime Minister's own vision to that. On digital economy, I will tell you in G7 meeting, which happened in Biarritz, Prime Minister was given the honor of presenting as a keynote speaker in G7. India is not a G7 country, but we are special invitee by France. And Prime Minister Modi made a presentation about the digital economy, in which he said digital economy should be going, but digital products should be developed as global good. It's a new idea. So Prime Minister is actually promoting these new ideas.
Sure. So being at home all the time can be slightly depressing at times. So how do you unwind? How do you keep yourself mentally fit?
I think I've been so busy. I've been doing so many.
Yeah.
I've been getting calls, and I've been also meeting and talking to people from all over the world virtually. In India, almost all the stakeholders, whether it is industry, whether it is fishermen, whether it is farmers, whether it is students organization, whether it is women organization, whether it is related to workers organization, trade unions, I've been interacting with them all the time. So I think I've been keeping myself busy. So, number two, I've been reading a lot, which probably I'm catching up on a lot of lost time, which I wanted to do but could not do. I do meditation, which always I like to do. I do some physical activity more than before. So I think I'm keeping myself extremely busy. So this is for me a blessing in disguise.
Right. Sir. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time, sir. It was a
And thank
pleasure.
you for this. Thank you for this. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.